Hey, everybody in the Pivot Shift Ahead group, it's James Shaw. Trust you're doing well. And one of my favorite things to do from time to time is to interview some agents who are absolutely knocking it out of the park and having amazing years. And today we get to talk to one of those people. I'm so excited. Hey, Brittney, how are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm good.
So good. Tell everybody who you are.
So I'm Brittney Lumb. I am over in Florida, celebration at the Keller Williams. I just started real estate. I just got my license in July of last year. Started with Keller Williams July 27th exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, good for you. We're happy you're here. And it's fun because I'm involved in celebration. And so that's how you and I got to know each other. And yeah, you joined our market center July 27th. And then just a couple of weeks ago, you capped. And it's always a big deal when we so you should be proud of that. And it's always a big deal when an agent caps, and especially in the first year, and especially when you do it so early. I mean, that means you get April, May, June, and July, 4 months at 100% before you reset August 1. First of all, I just got to ask you, what was it like to cap? I mean, that had to be an amazing feeling.
It was amazing. I knew it was coming, but when I got the phone call from my team lead that I capped, I was shocked. And yeah, it was an amazing feeling. And now it just is making me work harder to achieve a lot in these next couple months.
Yeah, no kidding. I want you to do that, and you've been working hard. And I think I want people to kind of hear your story today, because on the Pivot page, we like to go from inspiration to perspiration. You know that. You're on the call just about every morning, so you always know that. And so I would kind of understand your story, because 2020, like it was for many people, was a challenge for you. It came with some unexpected twists and turns. So tell people a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. So I moved to Florida to work for the Walt Disney World Company. And as many people know, COVID happened, and I was furloughed. And during that time, I just kind of had a lot of free time. So I decided to go for my real estate license. I thought that this was going to be a really great career path for me. So I spent a month, studied, and ended up going and getting my license and achieving that during the time of being furloughed, because I ultimately didn't know if I would have a job. And, that was really scary during that time, because I, moved to Florida for Disney, and it was really hard during that time of that unknown. So, yeah.
Now, you were working at Animal Kingdom, I think, in the Pandora section, and you're still furloughed. To be fair, like, people should know that the parks closed over a year ago. The closure happened over a year ago, and now they've been open for 9 months, and yet there are still many people who are not back. And so this has been a challenge for a lot of people, and it makes a lot of sense that you're in Celebration Market Center. It's the same exit, right? So it's the same exit as Disney World. So it made sense logistically for you, and yet it was definitely not what you planned. So talk about, just what that was like, and then the step of faith that you took to get your real estate license and get moving on that.
Yeah. So I grew up, my aunt is actually a real estate agent back in Illinois. She does that, and she's always been bugging me about going for my license. And I finally decided that I wanted to do it during that time. And I just, I'm really big on faith and belief, and I put a lot of faith into, God and myself. And, it just happened at the right point for me. And, it was just a really hard step to change my mind of changing my career paths, but it also really helped me, as Disney's all about making magic for people, and I can still carry that on, making magic for people with buying homes or selling their home and helping them find a dream house. And that's really important for me. And that's what I keep reminding myself is I can still continue to make magic as a real estate agent. And it's a lot more fun. And it's a lot of, being able to talk with a lot of different people. So I'm very blessed to have that experience to go get it.
No doubt about it. Okay, so let's talk about what's happened for you in real estate. You joined the office July 27. What'd you go into Ignite probably right away, except we're in we're kind of like in a digital space still. And so I at that time, I think we were doing some very limited stuff inside the training room. And yet you get your license, you come on up, you join the office, and you start doing Ignite, which is the program we use for someone to launch their business. And there's a piece of Ignite that's a real big deal that sometimes people skip. And that's, doing the contacts every day and kind of that daily homework. So talk about what you did that really set you up, even though maybe in the moment it didn't feel like it was working.
Yeah. So everyone in my office just kept telling me, make your phone calls, make the phone calls, make phone calls. And at first I was like, who do I call? And, I started just going through my phone and just calling everybody in my phone book. And a lot of people are not from Florida that I know. So that it was, I still called them, continued to kind of create relationships with people, and then moved on to expireds and for sale by owners. And I really tried to follow the Ignite program, and I listened to all of my mega agents in the office. They were very inspiring, and they told me, you have to make your phone calls every single day. You can't skip a day. And that's what I have to do. And it's hard sometimes, but then there's days that it's super easy to make those phone calls.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because what I heard was that there'd be days that the class would be over and everyone would leave, and yet you were sitting in the back of that training room getting those calls in, whether those people were in Illinois or in Florida. You're smiling and dialing, as we like to say. And there had to be days that you were like, what is the point of this? Like, this is not working, right? Were there days like that?
Absolutely. Yes.
How did you get through that?
So like you said, everybody would leave the office, and there was a couple of us that would stay in the office, and having them be there listening to my conversation, helping us critique each other, that was such a bonus. And if somebody yelled at me, which is hard, especially as a new agent, I had friends there that I could turn and kind of giggle and laugh about it, or get off the phone and we would talk about, this is what I did, but instead maybe we can do this next phone call if that happens. And so there was probably 3 of us that sat there and did our calls together, and helped each other achieve more, or try to achieve more.
Yeah. So having people around you to help you out and get you through some of those challenging times, that was a big help. So let's talk about what's happened in your business then, because you called everybody you knew, you were calling for sale by owners, you're calling expireds, and that turned out to work. So tell us a little bit about what has worked for you, because gosh, you've been with us since July 27. When was your first closing?
October 30th.
Okay, so it took what? August, September, October, so 90 solid days.
Yeah.
To get your first closing. So when did you get that one under contract, and was it a buyer or a seller?
It was a buyer. It was someone from Disney, their parents, and they had faith with me, and they held on. It was probably one of those experiences that I will never forget, because it was. Yeah, you
always remember the first one, right? And you found somebody who trusted you and was willing to walk alongside you with this, as they knew you were starting this journey, because it's someone from your sphere. And yet, how did you get that deal? Did they call you, or did you call them? How did that happen?
They actually called me and they just told me, hey, you know, my daughter loves you. She told us there's no other agent to go to, and we're going to use you. And
so you had told your
really
friend that you were going to sell real estate now.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so the first transaction was October 30th or whatever, toward the end of October. Yep. How many have you done total? We're recording this on April 9th. So how many closings have you had so far?
6.
Okay, so basically, let's call it November through April, right? Because the first one was at the end of October. So November, December, January, February, March, April. It's a closing a month on average since you had your first one. And what are some lessons you've learned in that process? You know, selling a house a month, which, by the way, the average is like less than a house a quarter when you look at the number of transactions and the number of NARs. So you're beating the average. What lessons have you learned in selling a house a month here in the last 6 months?
I have learned a lot, and I'm still learning. I have a lot to learn still. I think just each transaction is so different and so unique. You know, everyone brings different, I guess, different problems, or you know, my first transaction was very smooth. So the second one was a little bit more difficult, and then the third one. And even now working with some buyers, each one just brings different problems or different ways that you can solve the problem. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned is I rely on those mega agents to really help me learn from each one, and rely on them to help me in each, if I do run into a problem, and see what they would do to fix it.
Your community and having a good community is really important.
Yep.
So what is your advice, whether it's a mega agent watching this or a brand new agent or somebody in between? You've had some great success to start things off. Not everybody caps in their first year, right? The percentage of people who do that's really small. And the fact that you've done it with 4 months to go is huge. What lessons have you learned that you want to share with everybody else? What's your advice to them?
My advice to them is to have faith, is number one. I know there's that bold saying, when you get the drunk monkey on your shoulder, it happens. It happens to me almost daily, but you have to have your major why and continue to push forward, and always be willing to learn from anybody. There's so many great real estate agents out there that I continue to learn and take notes on my phone. If I hear them say something great, or they do something great, I write it into my phone and utilize that in my business every day.
And you told me that you have a standard of how many contacts you are basically required to make every day. Like, that's something you put in your business too, right?
Yep, every day. And it just went up. So I have to have 12 conversations a day. Sometimes they're super easy to get, and sometimes I'm sitting on the phone for a long time. So
here's what we found. Well, here's what we learned then. 12 conversations a day puts you on pace to sell a house a month. So if you wanted to sell 2 homes a month, then you go to 24 conversations a day, and so on, right? I mean, you've made a game a little bit out of this. And so what happens on those days that you're busy and you're driving all over Orlando showing homes and you're behind on your contacts? How do you get them in?
It's become, I think that's another lesson that I've learned is, even if I am busy, you have to make time for it. And if it's, 5 o'clock and I haven't made my phone calls, I come home, I make my phone calls. And sometimes it is a little bit later, but I try to get my 12 conversations in, and, remember why I'm doing it and keep chugging along.
That's good. How do you remember who to talk to when, and what's your system to make sure you're calling the right people and following up in the right way? What are you using?
I'm using Command. I'm using everything that Keller Williams offers. The tasks are my best friend, and if I didn't have that, I would forget everything.
So thank goodness for that. And then of course you make the pivot shift ahead call part of your schedule too. You told me you're on that just about every single day. What's been the biggest takeaway you've gotten from those conversations?
I think the motivation and seeing those amazing people achieve some great things is something that just, it's amazing. And I hope one day that I can be so successful like them. So.
Well, look, you just got your own interview for the page. I mean, so I think you're on the right track, Brittney. You're doing amazing. So I'm proud of you. I love that you are in the Celebration Market Center. I love that you're a part of Keller Williams, and you know, I want to send you and everybody at Disney all the best as that journey continues. You've got lots of friends who are still furloughed, including you, and you know how much you and I were talking about how much our family loves and supports Disney. So we're doing our best to send every dollar your direction, okay? So that everyone can get their jobs back and the cruise line can get sailing again and all that kind of stuff. Brittney, I'm proud of you. What is your goal now for 2021? What do you want to fit when we reconvene? We do another one of these, say at the end of the year. How many homes will you have sold by then?
I'm hoping that I can sell. My goal after capping is now going to be 2 a month. So with 8 months remaining of the year, I hope that I can do 16 homes.
All right. Well, you know, then is you got to go from 12 contacts to 24, right? So we already know the number. So maybe the number just changed. Hey, thanks, Brittney. I appreciate you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.